why is it that years later I am still dealing with the same issues with my horse? And the problem is when we start asking questions like that, then that means we have to turn, I'm going to say the blame, because that's often what happens, is we blame the horse, to ourselves and go, what am I offering in this interaction? What is occurring or what is not occurring? And how does the horse's feedback, their behaviors, give me the information to start to recognize that my horse may be lost, unclear, anticipative, fearful, or so on, and that once I start seeing that this is the horse's feedback, I need to slow down how I'm doing, what I'm doing, where I'm doing, when I'm doing things with the horse, and start to assess, one, my own behaviors. What is my communication? Am I specific? Am I adaptable in my energy and my specificity of what I'm asking the horse? Do I then check in with the horse, or do I just sort of, in the traditional world, we'll say you give a command and you expect obedience, versus learning to work with the horse, which is where you say, okay, well, I asked my horse to, let's say we're walking down the road, look at that tree before we go to walk off. I've asked them to look, they've turned their head, I've checked in, their eyes are seeing, they're blinking, their breathing's soft, it seems like they're ready. Hold on, let me assess the whole horse. Wow, they've got 4 different feet in 4 different directions. They're breathing really heavy, and they've got this brace, this locked up hindquarters, where it looks like they're full of tension. If all I say is, but I want to walk towards the tree, and I don't acknowledge that my horse is starting, despite him standing still and not looking big and not looking dramatic or scary or whatever it is that people's standard is for good or bad, and I go, wow, this horse is starting with brace and chaos and tension in there. If I just walk off, what's going to happen with all that tension? That's going to come out, and that's where we get the pushy horse, the anticipative horse, the horse who's surging ahead, the horse who's swinging their hindquarters around you. All these different behaviors, which again people think are the issue, and they're really just the symptom because we didn't check in. If instead we start to go, okay, I've got the horse's brain, they're looking, they're thinking, but wow, they're carrying that physical tension. Can I break down how that horse is carrying that physical tension to help him release it before I ask the next piece of him? So can I ask him to let go of any tension in his jaw? Can I help him deflate if he has swollen braced neck? Is his shoulders wide and locked up and his knees locked up? Can I adjust and adapt each foot and where it's placed, and ask him to step forward and bend a knee or step back, rock a hawk? Can I ask him to move his hindquarters one way or the other separate? Does he then counter that? If I ask him to move his hindquarters, does he start pushing on my hand or walking at me or trying to avoid my communication? Well, there's a big hole. Okay, stop. We need to time out and address these pieces, because if my little bit of helping him let go of this, carrying this physical brace, is causing more triggers, I have less ways of influencing what's about to happen the more I go to ask of him. But that sort of answer, where we slow down and we check in with the horse and we don't critique him, we don't go, why are you standing here with a brace? We go, oh, it's information. He's standing here with a brace and tension. Let me help him. How can I help him? And it takes experimenting. Sometimes one way that it helps to have that horse let down physically from carrying that tension might be different than on another day. So it's not always the same way of fixing something. There's no pattern in the interaction. And having that mental presence and that adaptability and that checking in with the horse and addressing the horse, and then he might come up with a different behavior, and then we have to address that, and the next one, and the next one. That's why I call it counter offers. And then you see the horse breathe and lick and chew and sigh, and the whole body deflates and there's no tension, and you ask them to look and the breathing is soft. You go to rock them and say, hey, are you ready to walk, before you ask for that first step, and that horse just melts. Now your horse is ready, and by the time you're walking off, there's nothing to fix, there's nothing to contain, there's nothing to hold back, there's nothing to drive forward. All these things that we have been taught that it takes to do stuff with horses is often just reflecting the holes in either the human and or the horse's education and the lack of communication. So again, these seemingly insignificant moments that are often seen as like separate or like just random moments of resistance, nothing is random. It's all connected. And sometimes we have to step back and play detective and go, okay, so how often have I done things out of familiarity versus assessing what's their quality? And the more that we start to assess is their quality and how we're doing what we're doing and what the horse's feedback is, and the more we start to recognize patterns, and the more we start to go, wow, I didn't realize X, Y, and Z is trickling down. That gives you insight into what you address. So we're not waiting until it all falls apart with the horse before we start to address the horse. Instead, it's proactive communication, being able to engage that horse's mind, help them let go of that whatever physical tension they might be carrying, or counter offers, addressing them in a way that is not causing fear.